Hi, I'm Laurie with To the Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have PJ with me. PJ, I want to tell all of our audience a little bit about who you are because you're very special in the world of wall covering, and I want designers to recognize your very big importance.
Oh, wow. What an intro. Well, thank you, Laurie. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. So I'm PJ Delaye. As you can tell by my noticeable accent, Laurie, this is when you're supposed to say what accent.
What accent?
I come from France. I was born and raised in Paris, moved to the US 35 years ago. That was I came to the US as part of an internship with my school. Ended up actually working for the government. And then in 1997, I joined a company, a wallpaper company, York Wall Coverings, the largest, oldest wallpaper manufacturer in North America. I worked for them 26 years. Did pretty much everything there. Started I was their first export director. Not quite true. They had an export director before me, but she refused to travel, which was
That's really weird. Yeah.
that didn't work out. Did product development, marketing, started a division for them called Roommates, which was peel and stick wall decals and peel and stick wallpaper. Did end up also being doing a stint as president of York. So yeah, basically, what happened to me was you fall into this cottage industry, which is the wall covering industry, especially wallpaper. It's not a very big industry worldwide. You have a few players, although it is changing, I should say. And maybe we want to talk about this, about the revolution that's happening thanks to digital printing
Yes.
and all of those. I'm viewing the industry a little bit like what's happening to it is a little bit similar to what happened to the breweries, the beer industry.
Yeah.
I know it's a weird analogy, but I remember when I came to the US 35 years ago, you had 4 or 5 really large beer manufacturers who dominated the marketplace.
Yes.
And over the years, what's happened was you have those micro breweries that have popped all over the place
Yeah.
that made actually a really nice product with a lot of personality. And it completely changed the landscape. And that's a little bit what's happening to the wall
Yeah,
covering
we just
industry.
had our Budweiser distributor, our Budweiser manufacturer here in my city closed, because they laid off all of their employees. I mean, they have a Clydesdale, barn. They had events there. They had all, tastings and stuff, and they just couldn't make it. I mean, Budweiser couldn't make it to keep this plant open because of that fact, because there are
Yes.
so many selections now and so many microbreweries and so many things that are a little bit more special that my husband is kind of involved in. He does the beerstagram. So
All right. You got to
yeah.
send me his contact info. We got
Yes,
to talk.
he's at Who Brought That Guy.
All right. What's happening in the industry? Yeah, it's completely changing. You have a lot of micro manufacturers or micro studios, and they're equipped with a digital press. So the barrier to entry has radically changed.
Yes.
And what's interesting is sometimes they really bring an interesting product, with their own sensibilities, things that the big guys might think is too risky.
Hmm.
And then it resonates with designers and they're off to the races, so really interesting to me to see the change in the industry. But basically, yeah, I fell into the industry 26 years ago. And you know what, there is a saying in the industry is once you join the industry, and it's a true saying inside the wall covering insiders know, once you fell in it, it's a little bit of a pact in blood. You've signed your life away. It's really rare. The industry keeps on recycling its people a little bit. So it's interesting to see the same people reappearing in different places. Yeah, and I think that's because it's a lot more fun than selling bolts and widgets. There
Sure.
is definitely this design aspect to it. Some people will say it's art
It is.
on a roll, for
And
sure.
it's so tricky because, I mean, I know the designers are probably thinking they love wallpaper, they love wall covering, but the number one wall covering for designers tends to be grass cloth because they can still layer art and it becomes a little bit more architectural and it doesn't feel like it overwhelms the space, so they can do more with it as well. It is not taking over as far as a design is concerned, but lots of designers really love that high impact. It can completely change the entire space when it is art on the wall. I mean, I love those like sepia murals of landscapes. I mean, they're every time I go to High Point and I see them, I'm like, I just love it. I want this in my own house, like
You have
all
great
over the wall.
taste.
I mean, just who doesn't want that? The drama of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my I would say history with wall coverings, it's almost it's a redemption story almost. I joined the industry that I will share a story with you. My first day when I joined the industry, the first message that I got was via fax. That's to tell you how old I am. And it was the largest Southeast Asian distributor for wall coverings announcing they were closing their doors.
Ooh,
And it was I joined at the worst possible time.
right.
I joined this industry and I joined in 1997, which was really, I think, the industry was in the doldrums.
Yeah. I remember like HGTV saying, want I remember watching like old back in the day, and they were like, you want to take all this wallpaper down. You want neutral colors. You want paint. You don't want wallpaper. It makes it more marketable for your home value if you have
Exactly.
like your beige walls, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. So the only time they talked about wallpaper, it was always in a negative light. It
Yeah.
was like, it's going to devalue the resale value. So let's take it out. And then to add insult to injury, they would film the removal process and they would say how difficult it was. And they would say, never again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was absolutely a double whammy. I think there was also, definitely this minimalist trend, where everybody was dressed in black, the famous Steve Jobs black turtleneck, everything was black, everything was monochromatic. There was no pattern. As a matter of fact, I can tell you when I saw a ray of hope, because we were always referencing what was happening in fashion
Right.
on the runway. And when we started seeing pattern coming back in women's fashion, some florals or, we were like, maybe we've got, and sure enough, it did.
Yes,
Sure
it
enough, it
did.
did. We went from this minimalist look to this maximalist look where bold and big, and this trend was also reinforced or supported by some advancement in technology, in printing technology. The digital, I mentioned digital presses
Yes.
came about and enabled designers to create oversized patterns, which you couldn't do, previously. You
Right.
needed, it was printed on a roll. So you needed to have like a certain circumference of design and a repeat. And those barriers are gone. So now you can create walls with absolutely, I'm thinking of a company like Calico. Their mission is to have, and there is not a single repeat in what they offer. They're actually specialized in wallpaper that doesn't repeat. That's
Right.
their mantra.
Right.
All those things are happening. It's part of the technological advancement that goes hand in hand with the fashion trend of the moment that you're seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's back, but I'm telling you, for years, yes,
I remember it. And it was sad because, it took people, I think, a fatigue of homes devoid of personality for a period of time before they started to say, look, like, do you look at these old photos of, houses in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s that had so much personality? Like, why does every house have to be builder beige or builder gray? Like, we could be something a little bit more. And I would say interior designers always were kind of on that front, but the client driven conversation from some of these, resale value conversations that were happening, keeping your home neutral. I just think eventually it globally, I think people got super tired of seeing the same, the same, the same. I last year, and it was repeated again. It was the year before last, and then it was repeated again last year, of the Home Alone house. The famous house from Home Alone, and how it was styled. And that house recently went up for sale, and they had a picture side by side of what those spaces look like now that they've been decorated for 2026. And bland. You can look this up online. Go over to check it out. Bland. It went from having, yes, these styling, but full of personality, full of character, to it could be any house. It doesn't have any personality. It doesn't show what kind of house it's in. It doesn't feel like it's connected to the architecture in any way. It could be any style home at
Yeah.
all. Whereas what you saw before was very clearly colonial,
For sure. So
Yeah.
when I joined the industry, it was funny because I remember walking in the studio and hearing all the people talking about the good old days, the 80s, where,
Yeah.
and everything it went over the top probably.
Sure.
Everything was matchy. You had wallpaper in
Yeah. My mom
every
had
room.
mushroom wallpaper with
Yeah.
mushroom drapes.
Hey, I'm going to have a mushroom wallpaper, peel and stick wallpaper
She loved it. She
coming out
loved
in
her
a few months.
mushrooms.
Everything old is new again. But yeah, in the 80s, all four walls, every room, those were the good old days. And I kept on saying, oh, stop it. Like I was picturing people in the studio in the 80s wearing togas and feeding grapes to one another and drinking wine. And I heard stories where there was so much money to be made in the wall coverings industry in the 80s. You had distributors. You had 15 distributors in the US. Every single distributor would take what they called cover to cover. They would take inventory. Stores would take inventory. The collections were profitable the day before they were even printed. That's how crazy it was, like printing money.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
entire industry. I heard of designers, wall covering designers, that would book trips to the UK to say, oh, we're going to go on a design fact finding mission to research that trend. And they actually would spend a lot of time in restaurants and have a great
Sure.
time in it,
Yeah.
and then come back and then just throw designs together, and bam, the collection was out. And yeah, so those were the good old days. And certainly what happened was, when the eye is not, when it all goes away and the eye is not used to see pattern any longer, because if you don't see pattern in fashion, or if you don't see pattern anywhere, and for a long time we went without pattern,
We did.
for a really long time.
Yes.
I think it took the eye a certain rehab time just to get used to it. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you start seeing it in women's fashion. You go like, okay, the eye is going to get used to color and pattern again, and that's a
Yes.
great sign. And sure enough, that's what happened. To the point that I don't think we're back. We're certainly not back to the decadence of the 80s. Although there is a trend that I've noticed with young people, this grammar core kind of trend where they want. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody who worked at anthropology not too long ago, and they told me, they said, well, we kind of contributed to the rebirth of that grammar core look, that
Yeah. Yeah.
super vintagey, old. And so it's funny because I see a lot of young people, geeking out completely on the ditzy, dainty little floral.
Yeah, the
Where,
vintage patterns, William and Morris kind of
yeah,
style. That I mean, absolutely, because I think it's a group of people. I think that whole generation, Gen Z, and why it's a mixture of like really caring about heritage and thrifting and the eco footprint of a brand, but also um, I think that there's a sense of history missing. I think I read this book years ago, and
interesting.
never can remember the name of it, but it was really fascinating about how for many, many generations, or for the last few generations, people weren't taking like the hand-me-downs from their relatives anymore. They didn't want it. And so my kids might have grown up with less like hand-me-downs, antiques, things around the house that were grandmothers and great grandmothers and sentimental things. And there was just a lost like yearning for that. And it really talked a lot about jobs too, like, and how people used to really, you would, with your own children, would, have them as apprentices to what you did. If you were a wallpaper hanger, your sons learned how to wallpaper hang, and that was their job, and that we've lost this art of true mentorship, which is in the form of, apprenticing people and really teaching them a trade that they can make a living with. And so I think there's a lot of stuff missing in that, but I do agree with you that Gen Z really want personality. They want something that is kind of like yearning toward a sense of history, a sense of
Yeah,
belonging.
that makes sense. I agree. That makes total sense. The other thing that I love when I watch TV is, and you see those TV shows where wallpaper, I'm thinking of White Lotus or
Yes.
Only Murders in the Building,
Yeah,
where you have wallpaper, but the wallpaper is almost a character
it
in the,
is.
it's very, very, very intentional.
Yes.
It's not a texture, it's a bold pattern. It's something that's really there to set some kind of a mood. It's there to be noticed.
Yes.
And so it warms my heart every time I see this. Again, coming
No.
from somebody who lived through like 20 some years of, at least a solid 15 years of, we had to beg people, take wallpaper.
Yeah.
Or I can tell you, often I heard wallpaper still exists. People are still buying that, or are you still making it? And now it's completely back into the zeitgeist.
Yes.
It is a super exciting time, and that's why I thought it was time for me to launch this new company.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about why you had such a strong position. You were president of the brand, and then you are starting it on your own. What did you see as something you wanted to do,
Sure.
with this industry that you knew, like, if I had done it my way, this would have happened this way?
Sure. So again, in that same kind of story of everything old is new again, I realized that the industry, as it had shifted over the years. The manufacturers or the converters, you actually have a lot more converters than manufacturers in this industry. You don't have a lot of true manufacturers left, but basically vertically integrated. So the distributors were gone completely. Whereas, as I mentioned, in the 80s, everything went through distributors. So what happens when you have this vertical integration? The companies are selling what they're designing and or what they're manufacturing. So it's very often coming from the same studio, using the equipment that's available to them at that time. And specific equipment can only make a specific type of product. You don't have a press that can make everything. That doesn't
Right.
exist.
No.
So you are somewhat limited by talent that you have in your studio. And so I noticed a lot of brands have their house style, which can be a great thing, especially if you have a strong personality. But I felt, well, could it be time for the market to have a distributor that pulls from a variety of mills? And so instead, if you're dealing with Via Decor, which by the way is the name of the company,
Yes.
remind me to tell you about the name because that was interesting. That was a very, very difficult decision for me to take.
Yes.
Is there is there a place for a manufacturer that pulls from a variety of mills throughout the world? So Via imports and distributes wallpaper from primarily European companies. We do have some product that's made in Korea, but very, very high quality, and it's designed in Europe. And so we pull from different mills, different studios. We curate from different studios. We curate from different mills. So we have a broad and extremely varied portfolio of products, whether it's from a color and design standpoint or whether it's from a pure technique standpoint.
Right. I did look at your line, and the variety is really good. I love your detail shots where you can get right up in there and see the texture of the wallpaper. I think that's really important to designers because they build texture on texture on texture everywhere they can because they want those surprising moments for their client
Sure.
where at at first glance it kind of just looks more plain, and then as you get closer you're like noticing, oh, that's special. They
That's,
love that. So, I think that that was a good move for you.
yeah, so
Integrating.
that's
Yeah.
the reason of being. That's the reason of being for Veer. The name came about because after 26 years at the same company, I thought I would probably die there.
Yeah,
I had come of become the Yoda of the joint.
of course.
And so after leaving, I'm like, okay, veer, it's like a change of direction. It's like turning. And so that was an important moment of my life. I was
Yeah,
like, and then I was like, I can probably weave that into a story of veer. It's a change of decor, like it's a change of direction, for you as well as the designer or the consumer. So I thought, yeah, I can weave a nice little story about that. So that's
absolutely.
where the name came from.
Yeah, I mean, just the contacts, and just so you know, the contacts that PJ has, like he knows every major e-commerce dealer you've ever seen. He's worked with everyone. I mean, Home Depot,
Thank you.
Anthropology, Wayfair, like everybody that's online, he's worked with them before. And the lines he's talking about are huge. They're not you're a small little wallpaper line that is nowhere. I mean, York Wall Coverings was the largest wallpaper manufacturer in the North America. So you have to, the amount of knowledge and contacts after 26 years that you are
Thank you.
bringing, I mean, next level. I mean, that is,
Thank
you
you.
know,
But
and so
now I'm
everyone,
really feeling like Yoda.
well, you should, because, that's who people in the design industry should be paying attention to, is the people who have that vast experience and know what really moves and what really sells, and how you can build in, with wall covering specifically, some sort of future to and longevity to the product line too. So you're looking at it with such a trained eye of what is, what was, what is going to be. And I think that that's really important for design brands to like lock in and pay attention to people with that kind of landscape view of an industry, because
Thank
it's
you.
a shortcut. It's a shortcut to knowing what will I can put in my home and will have legs,
Yeah.
particularly wall covering.
And listen, wall coverings is such an important element to, decorating. I always use the analogy and say, listen, there's a reason why you use the expression staring at your walls. You stare at your walls. You don't stare at your floor. You walk on your floor. You stare at your walls. Or the other saying I like to use is the floors ground a space, but the walls define it.
Right.
And the other thing that's important for people to realize is that in most cases, the wall area, just from a pure math standpoint, in an average room, you'll have 3 times more square footage of wall space than you have flooring,
Right.
and that's the first thing that you have in your line of sight,
So
so
our audience is designers, as you know. And what matters to me as the managing director of interior design community, where I really, really dig in and care about my designers' businesses and their profit models. What are you building in for profit for an average interior designer? If they're seeing your product out there in the retail market, what is their discount so that they can make a profit on
yeah,
this?
it's the average 20 to 40%
Okay.
for a designer for sure.
Yeah.
That's another, there is the dollar and cents component, to that
Yeah.
business or designer.
Yeah.
You can, and this is where I think wall coverings presents such an advantage over paint from a pure, well, from two standpoints. Number one, from a dollar and cents, from a business standpoint, you're certainly gonna make a lot more money
Per square foot. Yeah.
specifying wall coverings than you would ever paint.
Right. Right.
The second thing, and again, designers work in different ways. Some people don't take margin. I've seen that. They just pass the saving.
Not recommend this. I'm just letting you know. You are taking margin on the things you specify. And because believe me, it takes work to order it, get it in there, deal with all the problems, get them to select it, getting it
Good for you.
installed. That's
Good for
time and
you.
money.
But I've seen people do that. They just charge for the design fee and they don't build margin in the product.
And no business can really run
I agree.
financially well doing that. So I'm anti version of just a
Okay.
heavy design fee. I make money on product too. It's
So
another
you're gonna
bucket
make you're gonna make more money from, again, a pure business standpoint. You're gonna make more money specifying wall coverings than paint for sure.
for sure.
The second thing is what it does actually to your portfolio. You rarely leave a business card by specifying a paint color. But if you specify a great wallpaper pattern, when people walk in, when your guests walk in a room and go like, wow, what is this? What is
Mhm.
this? I hired this designer. This designer found this pattern for
Yeah.
me.
It's a referral generator. Absolutely.
So
It's that
just
wow
from a
moment.
Exactly. Just from a portfolio building resume, and listen, the impact that it has in a room, is undeniable. Even if you talked a little bit about what I just wrote a blog about this, textural details, where it's the art of a wallpaper pattern that usually it's tone on tone, it's a tonal thing, but yet there's definitely a design element to it, and even better, you get a tactile element to it because it's an emboss or
Yes.
so again, a lot more, even if it's a little more subtle way of using your walls, there's nothing that can do this better than wallpaper. Even a textural detailed wallpaper will be so much more interesting than just flat paint.
Yes, absolutely. And we were just talking about this report that I had been reading where it's from ThinkLab, which I think is a really amazing opportunity for designers to know their numbers and what is happening in the world of design. They have a really great report that was due out, and they said that wall covering, first of all, everything US market for commercial and residential products is $369.2 billion. And wall covering is $11.96 billion annually in North America. So that's huge, obviously. And paint is up there as well. But I mean, if you're thinking about typically for a designer, you don't make money on paint. You give that to the paint contractor, but wall covering you can. And sometimes it doesn't cheat out the painter either, because a lot of prep goes
Of
into the
course.
painter you might paint first so that the wall covering has a good
You have to you
surface
have to
utilized.
prime and
Yeah.
size your walls. Like I would always recommend, and listen, especially for designer wallpaper, I would always recommend hire a pro, wallpaper hanger
Yeah,
for sure. And
absolutely.
I do want to go back to your comment about not taking margin. You need to take margin, on the product. I think designers should feel good about doing so because the wallpaper decision involves so much more than just picking a paint color, although a true paint color specialist will argue about this. But for wallpaper, you've got the pattern scale, the way it's going to interact with the rest of the room. The
Any connecting rooms too. I mean, is it going to work with the connecting rooms? Is it going to fight any of the other patterns you have? If you have throw pillows, if you have art, if you have lighting, it impacts so many
Exactly.
aspects of the design.
The repeat matching,
Yeah, the repeat matching, the
the room
installation of it,
proportion,
the whole thing.
the installation complexity, that
Mhm.
I'm sure you're going to be working with the hanger. So definitely this has a lot of value.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's definitely why you should take your cut on this for
Yes,
sure.
absolutely. And those images, I can tell you, they are money shots because you've got this beautiful, I mean, those are the things when I'm looking at Pinterest, when I'm looking at Instagram, the images that stop me almost always have wallpaper. Almost always. I mean, they're such a visual impact in a room. I mean, even in a powder room, like you get these beautiful powder rooms where they really go for it and they really do something so fun and so interesting. And you've got people going in the bathroom in there and coming out like, wow,
Yeah.
what did you do in there?
I'm glad you're mentioning this because this is something that we're doing also. We have a, serious side of Veer, which is the patterns that are the beautiful patterns.
Yes.
But there's also something that a lot of people do not think about. It's the fun side of wallpaper.
Yeah.
And there could be exactly in a guest bathroom,
Yes.
it becomes conversational. You talked about mushroom wallpaper, there we
Yeah.
go. How much fun. We just launched and it's actually one of our best sellers. I'm going to say a bad word. It's on peel and stick. We have few peel and stick wallpapers, but no, listen, peel and stick, listen, nothing beats real wallpaper professionally installed by a wallpaper hanger. There's a reason also why wallpaper hangers hate peel and stick wallpaper with a passion. It's because they know it's actually not easier to install.
It is not.
No,
No.
the
But
things
it
that
is
we have.
easier to take it down.
Well, well,
I've done both. It is,
there.
even with modern wallpapers, it is a little bit easier to take down if it's the right product. I mean,
I
guaranteed.
will.
I tested so many when we came up with customized walls 15 years ago.
Hence the importance of priming and sizing before
Yes.
you install your
Yeah.
wallpaper,
Yeah.
because that will definitely help you with the removability. The other thing is, and this is something that's really important at Veer, all of our designer wallpaper, and I got to go back to the fun story, but
Yes.
all of the designer wallpaper, we have one common thread. Everything is printed on a non-woven backing.
Hmm.
And the non-woven backing presents a number of great advantages. Number one, you can actually paste the walls, which is now wallpaper hangers. They'll run probably the wallpaper through their pasting machines. They'll do the booking. But a real good quality non-woven is a non-dimensional wallpaper, so it won't expand when wet and it won't shrink. So
Right.
you can just paste the wall, bring the product straight onto the wall. And then when it's time to put the second strip, you still have the slippage, the
Yes.
also important slippage that needs to
It
happen
is.
if you want to have a perfect match, seam free.
Yeah. I will say most peel and stick, if you're out there listening, it's overlapped typically. Like if you really want a good, and you can a little bit see that density change and that
Yes.
because it's one over the other and it's about this wide, about a like less than an inch, but it still is an overlap typically.
It's a very good tip. It's a very important tip because most peel and stick wallpaper, it's changing a little bit, but most of them are still produced on vinyl. And usually it's a more supple vinyl,
Flexible.
which tends to contract or expand with heat. And the room temperature changes. So if you don't overlap it, at some point it's going to split, and
Yes.
you're going to see a seam. So that
Yes.
the tip of overlapping your peel and stick wallpaper is important. But
It is.
if you have a non-woven and it's properly installed, you should be able to pick the two corners and pull, because the non-woven offers a strength that is way superior to, so it won't rip.
No.
So you should be able, on all of the Veer product that we offer, it's the one common thread that we have, or common denominator. It's all on non-woven. You should be able to paste your walls if you wanted to. It's really super easy to install. And you pick the two corners, you pull down, and it should come in full strips, and this is it. It's
That's
not
what you want.
gone are the days of the scrapers, the little pieces that come one
Ugh,
little piece at a time.
nightmare.
Nightmare. Yeah. No, so the from a technological, and it's funny because in Europe, the entire industry is recommending to use that product and to use it and paste the wall. In the US, it's kind of the best known kept secret. No one talks about the properties of non-woven and why it is such a superior product and why the rest of the world went on to this material.
I think the reason was because the peel and stick hit so hard and became they felt like there wasn't as much of a commitment. So they could try this bold thing. And, places like there were big, design mecca websites like Design Milk and Apartment Therapy, and it allows you to have personality even if you're renting. It allows you to have personality if there are condo rules or whatever that might be. When I first started Customized Walls, I had gotten a foothold into condos. So I went to a bunch of different condo associations, pulled all their email addresses, and we asked if they could include some of our product as the welcome guide when you got a new tenant, a new person coming into the condo unit. And we negotiated for like many, many, many across the country top condo units to utilize our product. And then when I sold the company, I worked a deal where I got money for a period of time
Good for
in
you.
selling that company because they had all this book of business that they were able to like keep going for me. So I was paid to do nothing, which is what
No,
you like to do.
you're exactly right. Peel and stick arrived at a moment and it served its purpose, and it
Yeah.
did help. It did help the industry.
Yeah. Because it didn't feel like you had to do it forever. But I think you're right. Now is the time to look at something that goes a little bit deeper because it's so easy to take off. It's much easier to take off than the peel and stick now, especially if you're prepping your walls properly. But you have some really beautiful, beautiful things that you couldn't get. And like those touch seams, which is, I think the designers would prefer for sure rather than the overlap. It's just a little bit cleaner, a
Of
little bit
course.
more, perfect
I
look.
would challenge. It would be interesting to have a show where you would take two people. So each hangs the wallpaper, one a peel and stick wallpaper, because peel and stick wallpaper is a two-person's job. You need somebody to help guide at
Yes.
the bottom and somebody to hang
Yeah.
to be honest with you,
Yeah, because you're pulling the backing off. You're like smoothing
trying to
out,
match it at the
and
same time,
you got to roll the backing off at the same time you're smoothing out and getting all the air bubbles out of it because it's sticky. It's
Yeah,
sticky. It's like a big
exactly.
post-it
Whereas
note.
the paint, the paste the wall or paste the back, again, because you've got slippage, you can do it on your own. And I would bet you that the person that does a paste wallpaper would be finished possibly faster than the single peel and stick wallpaper person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that much easier. So I think you're right. What happened is peel and stick wallpaper came at the right time, where kind of like the industry was in the doldrum, pattern was coming back. It was a new technology. And what was interesting to me, and by the way, I helped create probably the second largest brand of peel and stick wallpaper,
Yeah.
in the world, which was Roommates at the time. But I didn't believe in it at first. I thought that it's sometimes when you're in the industry, you're too close to it and you don't see the forest through the trees. I remember being in front of a buyer at Target who told me, and at the time we had 12 feet of decals at Target with all the licenses. And so this buyer tells me, so tell me about peel and stick wallpaper. And I think my answer was, it doesn't work. You're not going to like it. And 6 months later, I see peel and stick wallpaper in what I considered my space. And I'm like, whoa, John, what happened? He said, well, I asked you and you didn't seem so hot about it. And
Yeah.
then I was stubborn about it. I was like, well, wait for the reviews to come in. The reviews are going to be terrible. And you know what? The reviews were 5 stars. And I can tell you, I'm going to have a very humble moment of vulnerable moment with you guys. I had totally underestimated one thing, the fact that the customer didn't have a single point of reference.
No.
So there was no baseline, and it
No, they
was
weren't looking at older wallpapers and how cool they
exactly.
were and the flocked and the cool,
It
like,
was easy enough. It was easy
no,
enough
it
for
was
them.
easy enough. And you know what? Through the years, I came from the printing, just so you know, I came from the printing industry for the first part of my career, about 12 years in the printing industry, working for printer manufacturers and developing product lines and bringing it to market and all of those things. So I was sort of witness to the giclée movement coming in and then eventually peel and stick wallpaper, which I had a very strong feeling it was going to take off because of the factors that we were talking about. But keep in mind that it's because I came from the digital printing world. And I really felt like this industry was it was the right thing at the right time and people could get it. And it was because of that temp thing. Like they hadn't seen anything like that in a long time. And the amount of people that can't recognize a good print is crazy to me. Like, we
Yes.
would put sometimes samples out that have like full on banding, and the people looking at it were like, this is so like, to not to look at a print that you know, they just never seen it before when it comes off the printer, and they're like, whoa, my design. And it was a crap print. It
Yeah,
was
if you see
not, it
it.
had
And
banding in it.
because you're on the inside, you
I'm
know
on the
what.
inside, I'm looking at it like, this is terrible. And they're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, you know?
You're totally right. And then I became what was funny about this Target story. I became stubborn. You know, I was like, well, wait for the reviews, and I would carry. I remember I took photos of wallpaper with the seams that would split, and no, the reviews were great. So then that's when, as a business decision, you know, I was like, well, if you can beat them, join them.
Join
And
them. Yeah.
we went real hard, and we made tons of money with that product. That said, so I'm not dissing PLC
No,
wallpaper.
it has its place, you
It's got
know?
its place, but you don't bring spam to the presidential breakfast.
I don't know about that.
That's another podcast.
Yeah. That's
But for sure, I think it's time now that the consumers have tested are back into wallpaper. It's time for them to graduate to something that's a little better.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
for sure, you know, a non-woven wallpaper will be a better quality, and a wallpaper that will be installed by a professional installers.
Yes. And I just want to be clear, you know, Veer is bringing in very exclusive, very gorgeous. I've looked at the lines myself.
Thanks.
Product line from Europe. These are top chef's kiss stuff. I mean, you really want to look at their
Thank you.
line and go into those detail shots to really look at some of the quality wallpapers, because they're really beautiful, and you're not going to find them anywhere else, which means you can't really be shopped too much. So,
Not
yeah.
really. And what's interesting, you know, to talk, you know, to close the loop on this fun side of wallpaper, you know, yeah, we launched this toile, you know, so it looks like a traditional toile, but then you look and you see a little Bigfoot
I
behind the
love that.
trees, you know. Or we've got actually 3 or 4 toiles like this. We
Yeah.
called it the
I
cricket.
didn't want to tell you last time we were talking, but my sister used to, she's one of those people who loves to push herself. That's just who she is. She did the Camino de Santiago,
Wow.
walking from, you know, France to Spain. She just likes to do things like that. And years ago, she will kill me for telling this story, but years ago, she took up burlesque dancing because she just wanted to feel positive about her body. And she just did it in Boston to like just explore that side of herself. And so she
Right.
really loved that kind of thing. She loves Dita Von Teese. She loves that. She's gone to see her with me, you know, like she loves it. And she found a wallpaper from, I think, France. I'm pretty sure it was a French wallpaper. And it was a dirty toile. And she installed that
Yes.
in her, like her primary closet. And I think her bathroom as well. It's just like, it's a little filthy, but
Exactly. Well, listen,
it makes me blush thinking about it.
let's have fun. And I believe that, listen, speaking of interior design, you know, your home should reflect your personality.
Yeah.
And if you have a little sense of zaniness,
Yes.
your wallpaper should reflect it. Maybe not in every room.
Right.
Again, you know, a place where
Or even a private place. You have your primary closet, you have your primary bathroom where you're not even going to
exactly.
have guests there. If it really is personal to you,
Yes,
or you want it to be a statement that your guests come in and say, that was fun. That's cool. Where
exactly,
did you get that? Like
exactly.
that's always a fun moment. Why not go for it like that?
And again, you know, paint can't really do that. You know, no one's going to come out and say, "What a fun paint."
What color was that? Have you
They
ever
could
heard
say
that ever?
they could say what a fun paint if it's like a hot pink, you know, or fuchsia or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. But that's basically the limit
yeah.
of it all. You
They're
know,
certainly not
whereas
gonna ask you where you got it.
yeah,
Like, it's just a
yes,
fun
exactly,
color or whatever, you know? So it does add so much personality to the space, and it's actually, I love it in powder rooms because it's not a huge investment per square foot. Like, you can go really crazy and get something really, really cool because it's really not, there's not a whole lot of space there. So you can do a couple rolls and it's
exactly.
done, you know?
So to the design community, I would say, you know, specify wallpaper because, you know, A, you're going to make money at it, and B, it's going to make your work all that much more memorable. So the
And
word of
have those referrals coming in, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, thank you, PJ. This has been so fantastic. I can't thank you enough for coming on the
Thank you.
podcast. What an icon you are in the world of
Come on.
wallpaper. I know
I've
that
been
our
called a lot of
members
things,
need to
but
know
never an
you.
icon. But thank you.
You are.
Thank
You
you,
are.
Paul.
Face it. You are.
All right, thanks.
All right.
I'm
Thank
going
you
to tell
so
my wife
much.
as soon as we hang up. I'm going to go tell her,
You better tell her.
you're
And she'll be
talking to
like,
an icon.
bow to you, the king
Well,
of
it's
wallpaper.
Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day, so maybe I shouldn't do that. All right.
All right.
Take
Thank you
care,
so
Laurie.
much.
And I want to see the videos of your sister doing the burlesque dancing.
I
Awesome.
know. She's so cool.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. It was a pleasure.